going. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, sis, and happy Memorial Day.
Same to you.
You know, we're grateful for our military folks who have allowed God to use them to accord us the freedom we have in this country. And it's a blessing to have a day to celebrate them. So I'm always grateful to those military men and appreciate them for their service. And I thank God that the Lord kept us all safe so that we all here to celebrate another Memorial Day. The topic today was not picked because of Memorial Day, but just now it's occurring to me that it's just timely. So in introduction, Dr. Otoyin Okwesomi. I'm a family practitioner, HIV specialist, and I treat addictions in Maryland. I have passion for disseminating current, congent medical information to help us prevent disease entities. For a while now, we've been on mental health, discussing depression, suicide, and racial disparities. Even this last week, a few days ago, I heard that a young girl in Nigeria, young adults, committed suicide. The question is why? In Africa, there are many subjects that we don't touch, we don't want to discuss. They no-go areas. And they no-go areas. A huge one of that is mental health. So I'm grateful that we have been discussing this. Today, we're going to be talking about guns, and violence in the Black community and how it impacts us, how it impacts our mental health. Can you believe that in the last couple of days, not last couple of weeks, last couple of days, there has been mass shooting on May 29th in Arizona, same May 29th in California, May 30th in Pennsylvania. There was a Texas shooting. I don't want to go deeply into them now because we have speakers who, have prepared talks to talk to us about them. But that's why we're here today, to talk about this violence and what we need to do to protect ourselves, if there is anything we can do to protect ourselves. I'm going to run this a little bit differently today. I'm going to put Dr. Bill on the spot because it's possible that he has to leave a little bit early, and his insight is always refreshing, educating, and welcomed. So Dr. Bill, what's your outlook? What's your take on this, gangs, guns, and violence in our community? Dr. Bill? Dr. Bill, okay, I'll go to Dr. Ajagbe.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think the topic, kind of found us today. It's not like anybody will have gone to look for this particular topic at a point when there is so much violence going on among the young people and affecting every segment of the community. I don't think right now there's any community that's not affected by violence, particularly with regards to mental health and the outcomes of untreated or undiagnosed mental health. So many things have been said during the previous sessions on the impact of mental health. I mean, environment and the inner constitutions and everything that affects the outplay of mental health in every community. It's very saddening to know that there are so many lives lost from individuals. I mean, in the hands of the individuals who are disenfranchised in one form or another. But I don't know that we do have the time to be able to go into all of the ramifications and the depths of how this came to be and how it's going to impact the communities involved perpetually or continuously. But there's need for intervention. I mean, there's no question about that, and recognizing it and not shying away from it and not playing the ostrich, burying the head in the sand and pretending that nobody can see it, as long as the ostrich couldn't see. We are beginning to scratch the things on the surface and be able to at least prefer some recommendations as to how this can be attacked and then subdued and actually be eradicated. So it's very heartbreaking to know that age is no longer a limit to how many victims are involved in this kind of violence that is in the communities all over the world. So I think we just have to keep on talking about this, and the policymakers are supposed to be in the forefront in this kind of discussion. And I hope somebody like Representative Anderson is around to shed some light on it in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I work in Baltimore City, and you won't believe I drove in one day and there were emergency vehicles on one side of the street. So I navigated and I went to the clinic. During a break between patients, I was told that there was a shooting right there, was why those vehicles were there. That happened just before I got there. Baltimore City, where I work, there is a lot of drugs and stuff like that. So one may say, oh, it's because it's Baltimore City, but it seems like there's nowhere safe anymore. When elementary school children go to school and a gunman shows up and started shooting children. Now, a lot of parents are scared of sending their children to school. I'll tell you, I've had a rough 2 weeks. It's been amazingly interesting. In my personal life, I had all these things going on. And then I had on the other side, some parents calling me about the decision not to send their children to school anymore because they're scared that somebody may come in and start shooting the children. So it got me to start thinking. COVID helped us realize that we can do virtual education. Children actually can stay home and study. And we did that for 2 years. Some schools are still, hybrid, some go to school, some are still doing the virtual. But something that I noticed was that it was very hard on parents who has to work, whether it's virtual work or even outside the house, because they needed to keep an eye on the children. Some children needed the attention, they don't stay focused, they shut their door, they're playing. I get all of this with people asking, what can I do? How am I going to do this? How can we make this work? And then there is another mental health component here. And that component is that when kids don't go to school, they don't have the ability to interact with other children. There is a part of our mentee that is being developed by children going to school, by having peers to play with. Look at some children, even from age 3, 2, 3, they may not start talking on time, but when they start going to daycare, when they start interacting with other children, they start developing those skills. It doesn't stop there. What about immunity? When a woman breastfeeds their child, we know that for the first 6 months of life, they get, they get immunity from the breast milk from their mom. But after that, what happens? When they go to daycare, I've seen mothers, bring their children very upset. A child who never had a cold or anything comes in with frequent cold symptoms, coughing, runny nose and stuff like that. And the parents get worried. We assure them that it's okay because they're getting exposed to, viruses, and it builds their immunity. When you keep your child at home, those things won't happen. So I don't think people are thinking of the mental health component. And I've had the opportunity this last week to discuss that with some parents, even though I don't have a solution for what is going on right now, but it is something that we need to also look at when people are considering, virtual education or not for their children. So this is something that I want us to keep in mind. If you have suggestions, if you've considered it, so that, you can give your input, at the appropriate time. If you have a question, you have input, please raise your hand, but I'm going to call on our able counselor here, Ms. Rosemary Ogbebor, to give us some insight in what is going on. Rosemary, kindly unmute.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I called on you to give your insight.
I stepped out a little bit. On what is going on right now?
On guns.
Or guns, okay. Well,
as it has to do with mental health.
Yeah. So, most of these things that is happening right now actually, started from the upbringing of the kids. I just believe that as a parent, if you have a troubled child, instead of you just, thinking that they're going to change without doing anything about it, we're actually lying to ourselves. If you know you have a troubled child, get that child some help. There is help out there. And most of these parents these days cannot even handle the pressure that is coming from the children. And get them help. Get them help. You know, you can tell that this boy that killed these children actually came from a very dysfunctional background. What's his business living with his grandmother? He has no business living with his grandmother if the parents were responsible enough to, you know, keep him with them. So, 18 years old doesn't even have no reason of buying ammunition like that. I mean, what is he going to do with those guns? And why would somebody in their right mind sell that gun to a child that just turned 18? For what? As a matter of fact, yesterday, you know, I was in a function yesterday, and one of the ladies that was in that event told about a story that happened a couple of weeks ago in Columbia, Maryland. She has a 15-year-old in a public school there. And during the break time, this 14-year-old, another child, you know, in the school, they went across the street to McDonald's, had his backpack with him, went to McDonald's. On his way back, he decided to search his backpack. He refused for them to search it. And then later ran away, went back to the McDonald's area, came back, dropped something there, came back, and then they searched his bag. They were watching him. By the time he came back, they searched his bag, there was nothing in there. So they went back to where he went to and found out that he had some loaded gun in there. Imagine if he was able to make his way to the school, he would have started doing the same thing that this young guy did. So I think they have to be more vigilant in schools, and they have to have more police officers in schools. So that's my take on that for now.
Thank you very much. Before you came, you know, well, you stepped away.
I did, yeah, because my mom is around, so.
Yeah, I was just talking about the fact that I work in Baltimore City, and people tend to think that things are limited to areas like that, but that nowhere is safe. And I brought up the issue of the children in the elementary schools. So, guns. There are different opinions about guns. I actually have some people who have been dialoguing with me that we need to encourage everyone in our community to own their own guns, because owning their guns will deter people from attacking them. There's another school of thought that when people have guns, then they have the tendency to there's a tendency for accidents then to happen, for, you know, somebody to pick up the gun that it's not meant to be, shoot someone else, or, you know, instead of resolving issues amicably, then they have the gun to turn to and stuff. So how do we handle this? In the middle of all of this going on, we see what went on, or we saw it, what went on in Texas, where the RFA, I think that's it, what's the name, the Gun Association, still met having their convention. And there was a lot of, you know, protesting, and people were sending out, you know, petitions to sign that against them. I don't know what these petitions do, because they're already in their convention. It's not going to stop them. What's the take on this? What is right? Some people are asking for teachers to have guns in school. Is that the solution? I have questions. And I saw that I'm going to hand over to Dr. Veronica Ufoegbune to take it from here. Dr. Veronica. Dr. V, I think Memorial Day is very interesting. This has been an interesting session today already, where, you know, I think Dr. Ajagbe is the only one that I've called on and was right on point, was right there. Dr. V, are you there and are you ready? Okay, if Dr. V is still getting ready, not prepared, I just want to say that in my opinion, and if you have an opinion, please raise your hand or put in the chat box. In my opinion, I think laws need to be made. For instance, as Rosemary had said, I think laws need to be made that children, 18-year-olds, should not have guns. But if we say that, it's not only 18-year-olds that have been shooting people. There has to be another form of evaluating mental health before people are allowed to get guns. There is some mental health questionnaire or mental health, you know, questioning process, I believe, when I asked that they implement before they approve the use of guns or for somebody to be licensed to have a gun. I think that needs to be reviewed. I think they need to have psychiatrists, counselors, you know, people in the mental health arena to assist, to help, to develop ways of identifying people with mental health. People who have had criminal records should not have guns, especially if the criminal record has to do with, you know, gun violence or something to do with shootings and stuff like that. They should not be allowed to have guns. We have to live. We have to get out of our houses. We have to interact. We have to go to work. There's a lot of anxiety now for people to even go out, to exercise. There is problem in our societies, especially amongst minority communities. Killings there is worse than any other community. We talk about police violence against people of color, but you know that Black people kill each other more than the police does. Statistics have shown it. So the purpose of this conversation tonight, you know, I'm dialoguing, I'm throwing all of these things out, but the purpose is for us to, you know, think of solutions, how to protect ourselves, and what's moving forward in our communities. I have counselors on the forum that I'm calling on tonight. Dr. Ogbebor, kindly unmute and give me your perspective on gangs, guns, and violence in our communities. Dr. Ogbebor. I'm asking you to unmute. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Can you give us your perspective on gangs, guns, and violence, please?
Oh, my take on gun violence has to do with the positions of the politicians at this moment that are refusing to actually address the situation head on. And the killings are so rampant and frequent, and more so to do with copycats. And people are stocking gun thinking that there is going to be violent takeover of the government, and that's what's going on in the news. The reasons why the southern states are hoarding and buying guns over, did they say, close to 2 million or 20 million last year alone, gun sales. Now, the trauma of gun violence has now gone into the realms of our children. That is the saddest part of it all. When the parents were being killed, maybe we had some kind of shock absorber. Now the children that are just coming in is very traumatic, even to people that are not their families. And it's actually making mental health services be in demand, and people that are actually appreciative of the services of the mental health professionals are asking that we do more. We do more as far as intervention, getting families together, getting people to understand that this trauma is very pervasive and goes across cultures. So, in my own opinion, I would just suggest that nobody can keep us bottled up, but we just have to find a way to keep an open mind, and be very vigilant of our surroundings. And this situation is not only against Blacks. This is becoming indiscriminate as of now. So it's not about Blacks alone now. So everybody needs to be careful. I understand that there was some kind of attempt to massively kill also in some Walmart somewhere in Maryland here. And that's why, just like you said in your opening statement, that we all should try to be aware of our surroundings, and we will still have to go out to the shops. We will still have to go to schools, but the effects of these killings and the news that is coming on almost every day, because actually it has saturated the media right now. There's no way you turn to it. It's all the news of the killings and reference to the past killings and how it's affecting everybody's psyche at this time. I will encourage those of us that are online to actually take a deep breath, take a step back and look at what else can we do to secure our families. Let us not just take it for granted that, it's not coming close, it's not coming to us. It's already in our neighborhoods, so we have to be more vigilant. That's all I can say so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you a pinpointed question. When you said we should be vigilant and aware of our surroundings, can you be more specific?
Well, when we go out into the communities, like you go into the shopping malls, be very, very aware of your surroundings. When you go into the grocery store, before you come out of your car, look around. Make sure that there's nothing suspicious, no movement of any kind of, because this guy just pulled up, jumped out of his car and ran into a school building. So nobody can ever nobody can just assume that everywhere is safe. So also we cannot assume that we are not safe. Otherwise, it will eat into our psyche, and it will cause massive depression in our communities and in our homes. And it's very destructive when depression sets in. So it's a concern that every family should take serious. It's limiting if we continue to say, we are not going to do this, we're not going to do that. But guess what? Life will continue whether we come out or not. So we are going to be the ones that are going to be resilient in our daily activities as far as making sure that we can go out. But just like I said, we should be aware of our surroundings. And sending our kids to school should not be a thing where we will say, maybe we need to consider homeschooling. That means we are keeping ourselves in the bottle. We cannot bottle ourselves up. The life that we are supposed to live, we must live it without fear. I'm not encouraging anybody to go and buy guns, because then there are other things, other factors that can cause us problem by owning a gun, whether you have license or not. I don't encourage it. I'm just going to continue to say, be more aware of your surroundings. Prepare to run when it is time to run. Prepare to lay flat when it's time to do so. When the chaos starts, look for the safest area and try to keep yourself out of harm's way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, a few years ago, I don't know if everybody remembers, a gunman went into the church and started shooting. One happened in South Carolina, and I know there was another one. Since then, we have security in our church. Can you believe it? The first time I saw a gunman in our church walking around, I'm like, what has the world turned into? In the church, gunman, a security is a security agent, a security man is being paid to help keep us safe. And so you're sitting in church and looking around, being vigilant, because you don't know who could come in there. In our church, I won't say which one, a gunman actually was in there before we started having that security. He was, the issue was wrapped up, and he ended up not shooting anybody and was handed over to the law, but that was the grace of God. So brother said in the forum, why are guns bought with no ID of any background or any background check? Why are some tobacco products purchased with ID, though I don't take tobacco stuff? He doesn't. Well, you know, you have to be 18 or more, I think, before you can buy these products, or maybe 21, I don't know. If there's anything worth checking and using ID before selling tobacco or some high-powered medication, why not guns?
I think we know that the loopholes are there. Gun shows, and people order guns online, so many loopholes. So to claim that we can control it will be fallacy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogbebor. It buttresses the fact, or what I said earlier, that there is mental health screenings that are better than need to be instituted before people can buy guns. It shouldn't be as easy as it is now. I think that would be a place to start. It would be a good place to start, to have, you know, good background checks done. Brother, thank you so much for that comment. It's ridiculous that in a country like ours, where, I mean, we're the world leader, we can't institute a better way to screen people that have guns. Another thing is, some of these shooters actually have written on Facebook, on social media, that they were going to do this. In the past, the FBI, the CIA are just so amazing in, you know, finding people who will commit havoc and just preventing the havoc from happening. And this was before social media. So in the times of social media, I think our powers, CIA, FBI, would be even better. I think maybe part of the problem we have is that, you know, like Dr. Ogbebor said, when people can buy guns online, social media, as you know, has not served us well, maybe in that arena, just maybe. Guns should not be bought online. And that's an area that we need to look at. And believe you me, this conversation is not going to stop here, because we are going to look into gun sales, for instance, online, and see how things like that can be blocked.
You can even buy from Walmart.
Dr. Veronica? Dr.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Dr. O. Thank you again, always, for this privilege to have a town discussion, because it's like everybody coming to the center of town. We used to have when we had the village situation. So you've created this village square where we all come in and voice our struggle, and then listen to each other's perspective and solutions. And that's how, when you say it takes a village, this is that village square. So thank you. And Dr. O and I spoke a little bit. I did some research of, all the solutions being preferred. I was listening because I was on another platform, are absolutely on point. We need to come together and use bringing every voice together into one voice to make it heavy. We need to find a way for that to happen. We need to ask our elected officials to be accountable. We need to stop this greed somehow. But let me go into quick data. Let me not bore you, but it helps to know what's really going on. We have social media, and social media doesn't even post this very important data for us. You have to go search that by state, the death rates and total deaths. We don't even hear, unless one big one, then they cover it up, then it's gone. Then they continue the selling of guns. Alaska has 24.5 highest rate in America. Who would think that Alaska, quiet Alaska, has that? And they have 180 deaths. Alabama has 22.9 highest death rates by gun violence, and they have 1,124. This is 2022 data. Louisiana, 1,008 people are dying. Do you hear that on the because they have to sell their guns, because if we start getting the raw data, it will turn uproar and they won't be able to sell guns, and they won't be able to oppress the minorities. Missouri, 1,307. We are just in May. And Mississippi, 632. Arkansas, 613. Wyoming, 113. West Virginia, near the East Coast there, 348. New Mexico, 394. And get this, Tennessee, 1,246 there. Do you hear that in the news? No. I can continue with the outrageous number of people dying. Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, 1,623 deaths, gun violence. Indiana, 1,106. Ohio is 1,589 deaths. And this is a mix of children, adults, and everybody. And another big one, Pennsylvania, 1,636 deaths. And then this one, get it, and nobody will be surprised. Texas, 3,513 deaths. 3,000. Gun violence. Florida, 2,724. These are two big numbers. Michigan, 1,138. Virginia, 1,041. And another big one, California, my state, 3,184 deaths. This is not okay. These deaths are people's lives, somebody's son, and so on and on. So, and then another data Dr. O wanted me to gather is what's happening in different places. In the Bay Area, freeway shooting, spiking due to gang hits. So we have gang violence, that's part of it. I don't like you, you don't like me, or I want to show you how many people I can kill on the freeway. So what are those parents doing? So maybe this is a parental guidance that we need to figure out. How are they looking at their children? Do you know what your child is doing? And then there's a 7-year-old boy injured in Bay Area freeway shooting. 7-year-old boy didn't do anything to anybody. He's in the parents' car. Boom, they shoot at the car for joke. And the 7-year-old is dead. 2 dead, 2 injured in another freeway shooting in San Francisco. And so on and on, tragic Bay Area shooting on the freeway. And people are just dying every day from somebody being upset. Somebody cut them off, they shoot that person. So again, would that be a source of solution? Can we teach each other? There are some that are not preventable, but some, if you have a spouse who has a temper. They need to temper that temper when they're on the freeway. So if someone cut you off, try your best to just take a deep breath and don't start the freeway anger on the freeway, because you never know the mood that person is in. It does not take away your femininity or your masculinity and machoism if you let them go. Just let them go. You have an agenda when you left your house. Do not let them change your agenda. While some are not triggered by what they call just being angry, anger driving, or whatever that term is. Some are just driving on the freeway and somebody crazy drives, and we just pray to God for that we don't ever be there when someone is shooting or in an anger management program, and we won't be interfacing them. But some of them we can. So don't get into arguments on the freeway. You do not know if they just had drugs. You don't know if, thank you. I was looking for that word, road rage.
Road rage.
Road rage. You knew that's why I was struggling trying to remember that word. Road rage. Road rage is one source of shooting that's preventable. And that means when they get angry, you get quiet, you get calm, you be in control of how you started your home. You had a direction, you're going there. If they want to run and fly, just let them go. So avoid road rage, no hand pointing, no thumbs up, no finger up, no yelling. I think if that would save lives, then please. We had a man and the son that died on the freeway from road rage. He was mad at someone that caught him. They started doing the banging on the freeway, cursing at each other. The next thing, the person that was running after them brought out the gun, shot the father, shot the son. And they just wanted to run to the grocery store and be back, but they never came back. They left themselves dead and the family mourning them. So road rage is definitely one we can talk to our families about, talk to our children. And a lot of times I'm not being sexist. The men are playing that machoism. Nobody cuts me off. I'm going to show you. They are crazy. They are not people you can approach. They are not approachable. They are not reasonable. They are not actually mentally balanced. I know that Dr. Craig, Dr. O, all of you can agree with me on that they're not people you can reasonably have a dialogue with. Because anyone who decides that the freeway is a fighting location is not reasonable. So also that we also need to mind our ways on the freeway. So I talk about freeways because those are places that if it's not an unusual situation, you actually have control over road rage. That you avoid how you drive can trigger somebody who's already mentally unstable. So, and that means if you're too slow, you might trigger somebody. If you're driving fast, you might trigger. If you're cutting people off, if you missed your exit, please go to the next exit. Do not do that crisscross applesauce across the freeway. It's risky, also triggers road rage. So any way we can, we do our best, but again, we can't control it all. So Dr. O, I feel like there's a lot, I think just families talking to each other about how we need to be mindful on the freeway, how we need to be mindful on roads, how we need to be mindful with our neighbors. Some neighbors are crazy. Study your neighbor. If it's somebody that it doesn't like confrontation, find other ways to reach them. The HOA can help, or other ways, or the police, have them go approach them. So there's ways. We can't control it all. We just have to do the best we can with our community, with our families. And I think politically is also another approach. What are we doing? Are we voting for and supporting groups that support the rifle distribution, the NRAs, because they don't seem to resonate with our values? Or if they do, if they resonate with your value, can you be a voice of reasoning to help them understand that they've made enough money, they have surplus every year. What else do they need? So I think and how it actually boomerangs. Selling guns, it comes back and it boomerangs, affects everybody. So those are some of the thoughts that I have about ways that we can control gun violence. We can't control it all, but every little step that we take might prevent. And we need to be spokespeople. We need to ask our candidates that are now all clamoring for our vote. how are you going to support our community with this gun violence prevention? What kind of prevention program do you have? And all that. So we need to talk to our leaders. They need to be our spokespeople. They need to advocate. They need to have investments in preventing gun violence, and we losing friends and family from gun violence. Thank you so much for the platform. I look forward to learning more from others as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. V, for that extensive research. Road rage. So, Brother Ajay put here that we need to be patient, calm, listen to music you enjoy, and calm. You know, he also wrote, I think he wrote, it's the fruit of the Spirit. He said, be calm, it's part of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Road rage is an all too common event, but there are steps you can take to avoid playing a role. And that is true, because you, we are the ones who will decide if we want to act or react in any situation. And it's always best to act and not to react. He also suggested we should plan ahead, give ourselves plenty of time so that you're not in too much hurry to cut somebody off and stuff like that. You know, I talked about our CIAs, our FBIs, they do amazing work. And I talked about, you know, before social media got so strong that it is now very much part of our societies, we see the work that the FBI and CIAs do. They're still doing it. Where I was going with that is that we need to assist. We need to help. Some of us are not social media, you know, gurus or queens and kings, like I'm not. But for people who are, when you see something that, you know, triggers fear or somebody, you know, ranting and raving that they're going to do this and that, please report it. 911. Even if it's 911, you can call and talk to somebody. You'll be directed to the right place to know who to talk to so that you can alert the people who can stop these things to stop them. We all have to be vigilant. Vigilance, you know, in just being careful, paying attention to our surroundings includes the social media. It includes paying attention. Because like I said before, some of these people actually write on social media that they're going to do this, that they're going to commit havoc. So we need to be good citizens. And to do that, you know what? I just found out right now, I was informed that there are ghost guns for sale on the internet, and they're very expensive. People pay and they send them to their individual homes. That's incredible. Something like that we should report so that the FBI, the CIA, whoever can assist in thwarting these sellers can do that. It's very important that the number of guns that roams around the streets and roams around homes are curtailed. At this point, I'm going to call on our attorney, Mrs. Tinu Akinshola. I'm asking you to unmute. You are muted. You are still muted.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, doctor. Hello, everybody. Good evening, all. Did you ask a question? I'm sorry.
No, I was rolling it over to you. You know you are coming on. So your comments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on depression. I mean,
On gun violence.
Today is an interesting.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Yeah. So, even on not being violent and depression, everything I would think, or according to my own experience and what I've come to know professionally, everything sort of like roll together, and depending on somebody's environment, somebody's upbringing, someone's um, even we don't want to talk about the mental state, because that one, of course, it's a given. Now, you don't know what's going on in anybody's life at a certain period of time. I mean, that is not an excuse to be violent or to let out your aggression on the other person. That in law is actually called transferred malice, because just because, for example, you as a wife or a husband at home, you and your wife or spouse, you got into it, and then you are out on the road and you have to take it out on everybody else. That is called, it is transferred malice as far as I'm concerned, because that thing kind of like the anger, with which you maybe left the home or left the situation, it's now, it has clouded your judgment. And so when you get out there, little things that actually would not infuriate or even get to you is now infuriating you to the point that you let out, and not let out a little, it's a lot. And probably somebody just cut you off, or someone didn't trafficate and then came into your lane, and you think, oh, this is the time to now let out. It could lead to something else. And something that I've actually found out is that especially in parking lots, people sort of like, I don't know, we're not really patient at all. When we get into a parking lot, okay, somebody saw a space. You didn't know maybe that person is also casing the same parking spot. But if this is a person with an anger issue or an unresolved conflict or situation from home that is carried away, with you, you carried it on. At that point, that person actually would press that button in the wrong way, and there is a lot of things that go on in parking lot. This other person may actually be someone who is carrying a gun, and before you know it, something that we should settle with fist fight at the worst, you're now just taking out the gun, bam, 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 and it's very sad. Unfortunately, sometimes these people that you have in the vehicle has children, and then you waste people's lives. So I would just, I don't know how we can curb all these excesses, because one man dying unnecessarily actually is not what we want either, let alone a community, or a group of people. And then children's futures are caught they are cut short, and it's, where does it end? We keep saying our prayers and our prayers and thoughts are with them, but we are not helping issues. For me, I don't think it's just about mental issues. I think we have to just treat the totality of whatever is plaguing the society. Because for some of us, even foreigners, I would say that, because it's not just Africans that are foreigners, we should actually be careful. We should be alarmed. That's the word. We should be alarmed. And if there's anything we can do to push this issue forward, let's do it, because it will come back to haunt us in one way or the other. And so what am I saying? Socially, in the family, environmentally, I mean, health-wise too, mentally. So totality of things happen to want to be an aggressive person, or to be angry, or now to let out on gun violence issues. Yeah, that's how I see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm trying to see who needs to to mute that in mute. So, Dr. Bill, I called on you, but I think the person you said was coming came and you stepped away. I saw your comment. I'm going to give it over to you to speak. Please unmute. You're still muted. There you
I'm
go.
sorry, I had to leave. It was something that was necessary. Unfortunately, it didn't resolve. And I see that we have moved in ways which are extraordinary in terms of speaking about how do we control gun violence. I think that, whether it's a gun or a knee on a neck or a knife in the back or whatever it is, we have lost sight of the preciousness of our life, of spirit. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Yes. And we can make laws. We can make all the laws we want to do that try and control these things. The NRA is an organization that deals with money. They have a new god. The god is money to them. And as long as they can make money, they don't care what happens. So, we can go talk to somebody. We'd be wasting both our energy and our breath at this point. Somehow, some way, and maybe, we've all lived for a period of time to understand that the value of life has diminished somehow, some way. We need to bring that back. And I believe the only way to start that, truthfully, is for each of us talking to all of the people that we see. One of the things that I have learned over my living, and it's actually a mantra, I shall serve life well. And I might say it 100 times a day. I shall serve life well. Quietly, I'm walking around, I might say it quietly. But if we keep saying it, that's energy that we're putting forth. We need to start bringing our good energy back. You speak of road rage. California has more cars in California than Chicago has phones. So, that's an issue which somehow needs to be controlled. And yes, I am a male. Someone spoke about male. They didn't want to speak about males. Yes, someone cuts me off and I get angry. Yes, I do get angry. Okay, that's real. That's very real. Is it my ego? But I do not let it control me. And that's what I need to do. That's what I've learned to do. Because not only am I have been captured then by somebody who is now in control of me. I'm no longer in control. And we need to convey that. We need to teach that. When we get angry, we're no longer in control. Someone else is controlling us. That's something that we need to start bringing forth. Someone just stated recently, yes, it's very hard to control all that we've done. The Uvalde thing was absolutely mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Children, 7, 8, 9 years old. But what was so ludicrous to me or absurd was the comments that I heard coming from the people who were expressing about this child. This child that shot these kids was a child himself. And he had not enough time in his living to understand how precious his life was. And if he understood that, he would have been able to convey that to other children. That to me is an unfortunate. He was a child that went into a tantrum. And as with all children, they have a tantrum, they kick their toys, they do whatever they do. His toy was a gun that fired quickly and killed kids. I think that we need to do whatever we can do legally and by laws, but at the same time, ours is a spiritual reconnection that we need to start bringing forward, because I think we've lost that. And we're talking about, we're talking around the problem without going to the problem. Thank you for the me allowing me to say this, but it's really, it's mind-boggling. I'm in a city that is extraordinary. We've had in this weekend 4 killings with guns. 4 killings. Now, I don't know the circumstances, but 4 lives, four spirits have been gone this way. So I'm open, I'm listening. Thank you for bringing the information forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I, at this point, just wanted to share this. In many communities of color, nearly everyone is impacted by gun violence. A 2018 national representative poll of American adults found that 27% of Black Americans had witnessed a shooting, and 23% reported that someone they care for has been killed by a gun. A survey of Baltimore City youths, 12 to 24-year-olds, found that 42% had witnessed a shooting compared to 4% of suburban youths. A survey of middle school children enrolled in Richmond, Virginia public school system found that 94% reported hearing gunshots, and 44% of boys and 30% of girls reported witnessing a shooting. In many communities of color, nearly everyone is impacted by gun violence. So, exposure to gun violence is associated with post-traumatic stress disorder, antisocial behavior, depression, stunted cognitive and emotional development, risky alcohol and substance use disorder, and increased likelihood in engaging in violence. Violence begets violence. While there are evidence-based treatments to support those exposed to gun violence, individuals in impacted communities often lack access to these vital mental health services. And again, these are communities of color. We have our work cut out for us.
Certainly do.
Especially people like me who actually work in these communities. When somebody has been exposed to violence, they usually too, in turn, are going to be violent. Some of these kids, that's all they know, that's all they see. So we need to institute programs that would engage children in these communities. Because when one don't have concrete things to do, they would engage in things that are not fruitful. Dr. Bill, I saw you, go ahead.
One of the selling points, I don't know if you've heard it, with NRA is as they sell guns, come buy a gun and get your man up.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's the implication that you are not a man unless you have a gun.
Sad.
That is absolutely, absolutely extraordinary. You just mentioned that there are kids who have nothing to do. What they say, a absent mind is a devil's workshop at this point in time. We need to, with our kids, some of us are so involved in our job, in our profession, and whatever we're doing, that we lose sight of the importance of maintaining a solid, grounded connection with those young people who are in our lives. That is critical, absolutely critical, as far as I'm concerned. So you're absolutely correct, Dr. O, when we do not have a fruitful, tangible, positive things that we can bring our children to or our young people to, they are then left at the beck and call of whatever's going on in the street at this point. I can tell you right now, yes, I was doing something, trying to get my car moving. Maybe 100 feet down the road, you have these young men there. Nice, they speak to me, they say good morning. But as they're talking, that bottle is going around. And at some point, something could happen. Someone could say something or something could tick them off and they will go off. Yes, I am in New York in a neighborhood that is predominantly of color. Yes, there are a gentrification is taking place here, and we know it's taking place everywhere. But it is always seemingly us who are getting the short end of that stick, and it's sometimes it just hurts to hear and see what's going on around us. All you could do is you have 10 seconds to speak to a young person on the street to get their attention before they walk away from you. Learn how to speak and connect again, because that's how we keep moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone who has spoken tonight. Thank you, because you bring quality to the table. But I'm thinking of something else also, mentoring. We need to find avenues to become mentors. Start mentoring children in these communities from elementary school, high school. You know, just going to the schools. I know one of my sons, as you know, does that. And that could change. If it's one child, one can reach, one can touch. That's one that has made our communities better. That's one that will not shoot somebody and most likely will not be killed on the street too young. You know, Brother Ajay wrote here that regarding rage roads, he wrote, move over if somebody is tailgating you. Ignore obscene gestures. Sister Tinu talked about that. You know, just, you know, things that should be, that we shouldn't even be fist fighting, but things that people can settle with their fist fights, it's now gone. It's got to stop. He said we should avoid eye contact with angry drivers and give them space. Be alive and safe. Don't be a statistic. We will not be statistics in Jesus' name. We need Christ. I just got another text telling me that, you know, Sister Anna was telling me that her nephew in New York says that New York is now so hot. He works in the emergency room. One patient after the other is being brought in for gunshot wound. It's not only New York, it's all over. So Sister Tinu, you're asking, how did we get there to start with? How? You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, other than I believe we are in the end times. The Bible said it. In the end times, there will be wars, rumors of wars, you know, father against sons, daughters against mother, whatever, parents against children, and vice versa. We've seen it. We need to get our acts together. We need to live our lives for Christ. A life with Christ will not pick up a gun to shoot somebody. So let me suggest something else. As my brother Bill said, Dr. Bill, we see these young folks. Let's take a minute to connect with them. I will share Christ with them, the love of Christ. Because all the time one cannot fail without it. We
When
need, go ahead.
When we are in an end time, it also speaks to a beginning time. So maybe the end time that you speak of is truthfully a beginning time. So while we might very well be surrounded by all things which are going down, we're also spiritually being risen up to begin something. So I understand when say we are in an end time, but I believe that if I'm walking out the door, I'm walking into something. I'm not leaving, but I'm entering into something. So yes, it might be a painful process going to quote that end time, but think of it also as a beginning time. That gives us a sense of hope. Also, I want to say this, and there's something which I've been rattled with for the last 20, 30 years. We speak of hope. Some years ago, a book was written, which we all know, Pandora.
Yeah.
Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Pandora's box had ills. Pandora opened her box and let the ills out. What was the last ill that came out of Pandora's box? It was hope. Why is hope coming out of a box of evility? Because sometimes we use hope and just sit still, as opposed to taking hope and making it action. So yes, end times, there is hope. The hope is action. We do something. Okay.
Thank you so much for that spin. I would add that hope for me is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Yes. Sister Tinu, over to you. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, so sorry. Brother Craig, I'm sure if I'd known maybe your title or something, I wouldn't call you Brother Craig. I'll call you something
It's
more.
Doctor.
Okay, Dr. Craig,
Dr.
because
Craig.
where we were raised, we revere and respect our adults, better. So you just touched a nerve when you were talking about not only doing alternative, but also when you end something, you have to begin something new. And as soon as you mentioned that, what came to my mind readily is something new that is beautiful, something new that is good, something new that is hopeful, something new that is safe, something new that is progressive, something new that is beautiful, because all these things that is going on out here now is ugliness, is evil, is wickedness. It's not beautiful at all, something amazing. And how do we do this? You cap it all up with hope. How do we give hope? Giving the hope, Dr. O said, through the Lord Jesus Christ. But then I carry it a next step and a step further, saying, how do you bring that hope in Christ Jesus without teaching or telling them? Somebody has to preach, somebody has to teach, somebody has to bring it up to them. How do we do this? And it's just funny that this session, I'm not supposed to come into the session, but for some reason, I remember that, they may have started at 7 o'clock Monday morning, Monday evening medicine, or what do we call this program? So, I clocked in and I wasn't having it, but then I stepped back out. But why am I saying this? Because I have to give a prelude to what happened between my son and I, like 3 or 4 days ago. And I didn't share this with you, Dr. O, because everything kind of like tied together. I have been meaning to do something in the schools, and I think I've asked the questions on this one of these programs in the earlier time when I joined. And for some reason, I haven't been able to get out. But 3 days ago, in the night. I will share my picture that my son took of me when I was doing that thing that Dr. Sandu told us to raise our legs up for 20 minutes. And the thoughts now started coming to me. And then I told my son, I said, Kule, I'm going to do XYZ in Burtonsville Elementary School. In the middle school, this is this program that I think I should do. And then in the high school, this is another one, And now, this is what I'm saying as in the step further. So the Lord has orchestrated things before. So my thing was going to the elementary school. I know some of you, my wonderful sisters, must have done this before. Start reading to them. So what am I going to be reading to them? Something of good virtue, something pleasant, something joyful, something that is positive, optimistic, something that helps you to come on with a good resolve rather than a bad attitude or a bad outlet that make you to do something that is egregiously going to affect the other person who we may not see again, because depending on what you do, like shooting now, that person's life is wasted and gone. So, and that's why I kind of like, God, amazing. So this is why I had to tell the story why I wasn't going to come on tonight. It's amazing. So we need to teach. We need to give that hope. However we do it, we need to get out there and do it. Thank you, Dr. O. Thank you, sir. Dr. Craig.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah.
I used to do sex education, teach sex education and smoking cessation in middle schools and high schools all over Howard County and Baltimore City. I've not done it in a couple of years. I need to revisit it. And more of us need to do it. But this time, to start talking about violence, gun violence, gangs. When kids have nothing to do, that's when they join these gangs. I'll repeat, we need to come up with programs. Remember when we were growing up? Well, I was growing up, I did up to high school in Nigeria. There was after-school programs. I learned how to knit and crochet in these programs. After doing homework, then you pick what you want to learn. Knitting and crocheting fascinated me. I knit blankets, I knit all sorts of things now. And I crochet them. We learned how to do our own hair. I can braid my own hair on my head. That's where I learned it. So by the time we got home, we were tired. It was bedtime, getting ready for the next day. We need to implement programs like that. They're simple, they're easy to do, so that from younger age, we can get our children, grandchildren, children in our communities of color involved in things that are more productive. Sister Rosemary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Tinu. That was a good one. So what if we start, having parenting, teaching parenting in schools? What if we have a program whereby we have, during the premarital class, we teach people on how to know who they are. People that are trying to get married, premarital class, teach them how to, what they're about to embark on. What if we start teaching people all these things? And if they know, because you can go to schools and teach these children, read to them, do everything with them, but they are going back home. They have children raising children. They have very irresponsible parents raising children that are not supposed to be parents. So what are these kids going to be getting from these parents? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Confusion, dysfunctional background coming up. Confused children that doesn't have no sense of belonging, no self-worth or value. That's what we are breeding in the society. So we have to go to the root cause, because if we keep on taking these children and fixing them or whatever, but and the parents are not involved in it, it's fruitless, it becomes fruitless. So that's, if we can be teaching these parents how to do parenting, and how for them to be able to find out who they are, to work on themselves, because you cannot give out what you don't have. Because I remember when I was having issues with my daughter, I had to go for therapy. And guess what? When I went through I'm in mental health. When I went through I was able to reach my daughter and be able to transform her. Today, she's doing very, very well. And I'm so proud of her. So what if parents can just make some sacrifice and, pay attention to what is going on and be able to help those children? These kids are crying. They are confused. They need direction. But who is there to implement this direction for them? That's my take. Thank you.
It's got to be us. It's got to be me. And this is not just talk, because we will. Thank you so much for that input. Thank you. And I'm going to call on Sister Clementina, then Dr. V. I'm going to revert back to you. Sister Clementina, please unmute. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, sorry. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Sister Rosemary and Tinu, I agree with what you said. But Rosemary, I beg to differ. I think teaching the kids, even if we can't reach the parents, let's just start with whoever we can reach first. And sometimes the kids make a difference. When they go in their homes, they take what they have been taught back into their homes. And sometimes even the kids correct the parents. So let's not just discount let's just start teaching anybody who is available. And hopefully the kids will take it home, and the parents may learn from the kids. But I just think just putting it out there, let's not limit where we start teaching. Let's just start teaching what we know that will bring about change.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent point. However, one does not obstruct or prevent the other. I think we all have different strengths. Some of us connect more to children, some more to adults. So those strengths too, we need to identify and utilize to the best. So people who can connect to the parents will do the parents' teachings and connections. And we will love the children. We will love children. We'll do the children one. I 100% agree with that, but we need all of this together in order to rebuild our community. It's very important. So, Dr. V, before you go, because you may have a comment on this, I just got this, that a Pastor Greg Locke, L-O-C-K-E, don't want Democrats in his church. Is he wrong?
Wow.
He doesn't want Democrats in his church because, you Democrats, talking about, stopping gun violence and people carrying guns. He doesn't want you in his church. Dr. V, over to you.
Thank you again, Dr. O, and thank you. This platform is just full of wisdom, and none is wrong. There are multiple ways. So I want to thank Dr. Rosemary Ogbebor and Barrister for their. Somebody said, okay, Madam Ogbebor and Tinu. Okay, Sister Rosemary and Sister Tinu, thank you for your thoughts, because they resonate with what I believe in. And I also want to take a moment to say thank you, brother. Every point I made about road rage, he gave the tip to how we should operate and reminding everyone about that. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And regarding training new parents, and I would say including old parents, I agree, and also training children. The platform for training is already in place. Let me just say that creating new platforms means you now have to, thank you, you now have to establish and then find those that would say, no, we shouldn't do that. Then we waste a lot of energy doing that. the good news is that the platforms are in place. As spiritual leaders should be including these trainings when people are doing pre-wedding, pre-marriage counseling. When we come to church every Sunday, everything we've said should be in the preaching of the existing structure that we have. Our doctors, our medical platforms should be educating their patients, which all of us are patients. So the public service announcements, public health. So I believe that everything you said we should be doing, socio-emotional development training, because those that are running on the freeway and get throw tantrums, they need some socio-emotional development training. And those can be respectfully infused into public health service training, jingles, promos, opportunities that are had for both children and adults that we need to encourage, not encourage, actually demand that existing structures that we already trust. People trust their spiritual leaders, their religious leaders. Those are media that should be used to reach people. And that means that we should begin to advocate for existing structures that are already there, that we need, that we go to, that we believe in, to be the medium, so we don't waste that energy trying to convince people. And it doesn't matter if you like Democrats or not, or Republicans, everybody's life is important, that we find a way to help these guys that say, I don't like Democrats, to hear, hey, you may not like Democrats, I know you like your life. Because if they like to save their life, then they begin to save other people's lives. But those are absolutely critical education. Yes, in corporate settings, employers, everywhere. So we have to think widely. What are the infrastructures in place already? And this education needs to go viral. It needs to go global. And it means here and at home. Let's not even start talking about the gun violence at home, the raping, the kidnapping. And NAPAC is a structure that believes in not complaining about what's wrong, but doing something about it, which is why we have this village square. So let's put together all these tips that we've put together from Dr. O's platform tonight. Let's throw them into tips. Let's have that go viral. Let it go to schools, institutions, corporate, medical, public, social services, mental health. It's really absolutely critical that we begin to think about healing for the loss of lives every day. They are wasted loss of lives that we can start preventing one life at a time. So thank you again, everybody. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. That is wisdom. To use what we have, you know, even it's not limited to the marriage counseling and all of that. Even the children in Sunday school, in, like I said, volunteering in schools to give talks, to give these sessions. The schools allow us to do it. They're eager to have you come and come educate the children and to meet them there. However, you know, Sister Tinu, thank you so much for that Pastor Loke's comment over there. Dr. V, that's an example of a church that don't want Democrats.
Exactly.
In this church. So now, let's say the pastor is talking about abortion. So if I believe in abortion, how are you going to engage me when you don't want me to come to your church? If you allow me to come, perchance you can convince me not to kill my child. You can convince me to let me know that what I'm carrying is life, is a fetus. So what am I saying? We need to be inclusive. This one is heterosexual, homosexual, Democrats, Republicans. We need to stop that. We need to embrace one another. Look, I'm going to tell you my take on this abortion issue. I hardly do say what my takes are, but I'm going to do it tonight. I don't believe somebody should take the life of their baby. I don't believe somebody should have an abortion, but I do believe that it's the woman's right to make that decision. Where do I come in? If I have the opportunity, I will help that woman know that this thing you're carrying, this fetus, is not a thing, it has life. Why don't you want it? Maybe we can dialogue on, if you carry this baby to term, you know, we can work on adoption, you know, places to help give the child to adoption, or is it taking care of the child that is a problem? Maybe we can have support to help with the child, what have you, all of those conversations. But at the end of the day, it is the woman's decision. Why do I take this stance? Because that's the stance Jesus took. I believe Jesus is pro-choice and not pro-life, and I can prove it to you. He never forced himself on anyone. Jesus told people who he was, who he is, but never forced anyone to accept him. So why should we force what we believe on somebody if we say we are Christ lovers and Christ followers? People should have their own choices. And I pray that this pastor will rethink what he said and become inclusive. He must have a reason why he's so passionate on the stance he took, but allowing people to come in to hear him is what would help him to be able to educate them. Again, they have to make their decisions. So the church is a huge place to educate on any subject. Dr. V hit it on the head. So for all of us who go to church, that's an avenue where we can volunteer to be able to, mentor children, disseminate information that will be edifying. And again, schools are a good place to do that. Somebody raised their hand and I forgot who they were. But Dr. Bill said there occurred an incident some years prior. He was returning home from work and encountered a young child out at a time when he should have been in the house or home, maybe even in bed. For a moment, he spoke with and asked why he was out at that time. He responded that his mother was keeping company, in quotes, keeping company. And he had to come out. Dr. Bill ended tragic. Any comments on that? Because it is indeed tragic. How do you intervene there? Mother has company.
That was the reason why I said from the beginning that we have to start with the parents, because they have very, very irresponsible mothers or fathers raising kids that are not supposed to raise children. You'll be surprised what these children has been exposed to growing up. They've been exposed to drugs, sex, and a whole lot of things from their parents. So if we really take care of these people before they get married or before they start having sex, all these things will be avoided.
One of the things is that children, of course, are raising children. We know that. But everyone is looking for love. Sometimes we look for love in the wrong places, but we're looking for love. Now that's a good, but the idea of where we're looking sometimes is tragic at that point. All I could do with that child was for a moment engage him in conversation and speak with him, ask him questions, what's going on. Someone spoke about educating parents, but a child that's raising a child, for whatever reason, is having difficulty with her own living, with her own life, with her own meaning of who she is and what she is. Dr. O, you brought somebody on some weeks back, a young woman who has gone through, who has survived and is growing strong and doing different things. Wonderful to see that she has come through and that she has your support and the support of others around her. All we can do at this point in time is, when you have the opportunity, and we always don't, we make sure that we're able to touch for however long, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, 15 seconds, just to convey the point that they are precious and of value. And if we can help with there, because that's the attention span sometimes that we have with our children, completely. So one of the things which I do when I am able, I ask kids, what is the best thing that you'd want to do in your living right now? And I ask them to write it. And then in the writing of it, we have a moment where we can have a conversation, have a discussion, share some knowledge. So if I ask, well, what kind of cake do you like? Why do you like vanilla as opposed to chocolate? Or whatever. It's simple. It's not nothing involved. But once you create that kind of an avenue for a conversation, you can continue it. I did that with my grandson's scout troop at this point, and I asked the scout director, I'm willing to do. Why don't you let me bring forth ideas on nutrition? Simple ideas on nutrition. And of course, he said, yes, 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 yes. Well, I'm waiting to see it come to fruition. But again, we need to know, we need to talk about things in a child's term or in a young person's term. That comment about no Democrats, I shake my head. I shake my head. And that's a pastor. Obviously, he is locked into a particular thought, a particular thing about life, and he only sees it in one way, one direction, which makes him unavailable to communicate, to share, to show love, period. That's me, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Right on point. Sister Tinu, were you going to
Yeah,
say?
sorry, I wanted to say something quickly, just to follow up with what Dr. Craig said. Every time I just find myself tagging along with you, sir. Yeah, thank you for the wisdom. I remember, and of course, we're still not too far from DC. I was on the panel in DC for child abuse and neglect, and mostly I represent parents who have been slapped with child abuse and neglect charges, and sometimes I do represent the children themselves as a guardian ad litem. And I have seen so many things. I think I have shared somewhere that a lot of things that we had mostly the parents come in for, that we have to kind of like yank the children from them for. The reason why we do that, it's sometimes, if and I'm saying this because I know this is a private program, I say that sometimes even me, maybe I would have been in that system that I will be defending myself to get my children back, So yeah, but why am I saying that? Because something that I have seen it as somebody of the inside, DC is a majority or used to be, because the complexion is changing now in DC. The demographics is mostly Black people, colored people in DC, and most of the people that they bring to court are actually people of color. So, and even if they have to like say, okay, yeah, you can take your child home, finally the case is closed, this is about 2 years later. Now, I brought that to say that back then it was that. But lately, they now realize that something went wrong in the system, welfare, social, whatever. Something went wrong in the system, that even the courts, the judges are themselves now craving and creating alternative trainings and counseling sessions and things that will help parents, and then of course the youth themselves on a separate footing, and then things that gravitate into or culminate into all of them together as a family. They call it family therapy, but family therapy when we have a case. But let's do something before the case even becomes a case or a problem. So why am I saying this? Is just to tag along the fact that they know that majority of colored people are the people that will bring up to the court. The other people, we just give them a slap on the face. We don't even look in their direction, just as in every other thing. But now it's becoming that problem. So a mother whose child was taken away from her just because she or him screams and then said, oh, you're not going to have this today, or I don't want you doing this because around the corner somewhere, drugs is there, gun is there. But who put it in that community? It started from somewhere. And the Bible, says, if the foundation be shaken, what can the righteous do? Now, what is our foundation? And that's why I asked that question. How did we get there? I know how we got there. You know how we got there. It's because of our foundation is faulty to start with. We started making criminals of people who we should help, assist, take care, But then until it now become prevalent that it's rubbing unfavorably on the other people who were not intended. Now we're coming down to saying, oh, okay, let's help us. The same attitude about marijuana. I don't want to say drugs. Marijuana, just 1 gram that somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's sibling had gone to prison for over 10 years for. Now we're saying, oh, it's safe in Massachusetts. Now it's safe, we can do herbal life because these other sacred people are now doing it. So that's the foundation.
Whoa. Thank you. Wow. I'm going to turn to the chat. We really appreciate your comment. Thank you, because that is indeed the foundation. I said I'll turn to the chats because it really does echo what you're saying. Dr. Ajagbe said, we should not assume that some pastors are mentally balanced. When you're talking of foundation, we're talking about going to the church. When the foundation is not mentally balanced. He said we shouldn't assume it. It's a simple but honest statement. Sister Clementina said, it appears some men of God, in quotes, are losing sight of their role, but are becoming politically inclined in their teachings. That is true. See, that's part of being not mentally balanced, because if somebody replaces Christ with politics, that's a problem. And Sister Tinu, you have spoken Sister Clementina, though, is still with, just trying to get Sister Rosemary to see that our children is still the foundation. That, let's start with the children. And Sister Rosemary is saying, this marriage thing, before they get married, which is another foundation. Because when you're going to get married, that's the new foundation you started. So in all, sisters, it's the same thing you're saying. There are different facets we need to work on. And we have to do them all simultaneously with people who have the strength in each area, working in that area, working on that strength. I wanted to share about, the Alliance of Concerned Men. I don't know if you've heard about them. Mr. Tyrone is Sister Monique Williams' father. She's been on Miracle Mondays a lot. Today is Memorial Day. I commend every one of you who came in today, despite today. Lots of people are barbecuing and they are celebrating Memorial Day. But what some have told me on the platform is I'd better not have Medical Mondays with Dr. O because there's a holiday. So here we are, and thank you for coming. Since we are talking about solutions, we've talked about statistics, we've talked about the gangs, the guns, the violence, and we're dialoguing about solutions in our communities. I want to just encourage us that this is already being done. There, I don't know what happened to my screen. So there, thank you so much, Pastor Dr. Ajay, for that, sharing that slide. Thank you. I want to share this with you. It's a quick, I think 5-6 minute video, and I want to end with that to encourage us, to let us see who in our community actually have been doing this, have done this. And now, I don't know what you can see. Shai.
You can see the screen, Alliance of Concerned Men.
Fantastic.
Just put it up on my phone.
There.
Daryl Hall came up, and I think by us talking about it that day, about how vicious it was, that I went home, I couldn't sleep that night. Tyrone couldn't sleep. So I said, the only thing we can do is go up there and talk to the kids, talk to those who are basically involved creating these problems. Because if we don't, then it's going to continue. If we don't do something that's going to be more profound than just sitting, or stand and marching, or just stand and talking, that's not going to work because it hasn't worked.
The two men went to Benning Terrace to see an old friend.
Dr. O, the sound disappeared.
Benning
The
Terrace.
sound
I
disappeared.
got tracks right now.
Yes.
It's been over 21 years.
Thank you. It's good now.
I don't know what might have happened. I just muted it.
It's
Should
on
I-
now. It's on now.
It's on now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back now.
Right here. And they got tracks. And you know, I'm glad these tracks won't ever leave because they remind me of how it used to be.
As a heroin addict, Rico hit rock bottom in the 70s.
I'm walking the streets and my beard is straggling and kids are going around talking about calling me the boogeyman. I went home on Thanksgiving and knocked on the door. My mother didn't even open the door. She looked out and said, "What do you want?" I said, "It's Thanksgiving." She said, "Well, I'm sorry, you can't come in here." So my mother, my family turned it back on me.
For Tyrone Parker, jail was desolation. He missed the chance to raise his younger son, Rodney. When he finally got out on parole, Tyrone lost his son.
My son got killed over the skating rink, being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Two dudes get to hugging. One starts shooting and a bullet hits him. One bullet hits him, kill him, take him away. My son. What's that like? Like nothing that I can really describe, like a pain that's indescribable, like a future, like a hope going down the drain. Like everything that you believe in, that you would wish for through your child is no longer in existence. And you ask why. And the amazing thing about asking why, you understand the reasons as to why. I wasn't there with him. And one time that I felt like I should have been. Because I feel like even while he was someplace where he wasn't supposed to be, I could have had him someplace else.
So this man changed the streets. I'm sorry, I hope you heard most of it, which is not a lot that you didn't hear, right?
Some, that's okay. Maybe we'll get to do it again at some point.
Yes, but just 1 second. I want to share the testimonials with you because it's very important. I think it's going to encourage us to know that we can do this. This man did this. Can you hear?
Yes.
It's like I want to think about the bigger picture. Like I want to think about everybody else. I was just thinking about just me type stuff. Like I want to think it's bigger than me. Like I was thinking like everything gotta go in my time. I was impatient. I couldn't wait for nothing and all that. But that's why I get in trouble.
I just did the wrong thing because I wanted some stuff. I wanted things that I couldn't afford at that time. So I went out there and got it myself without doing the right thing. I got involved so I could stop. I mean, for real, the courts forced me to get involved. But I started taking liking to it, not doing the wrong thing, actually doing the right thing instead of going out there hurting other people and things like that.
Do they teach you how to do stuff the right way? You know me? They provide opportunity. They provide, you know me, tutoring or whatever you need. You need a mentor. They provide all that. You know, like, there's not too much to say. Like, I wouldn't even be right here if it wasn't for the service.
I grew up in foster care. Just like I said, my mom died when I was 1. My father left when I was young. My aunts, they took care of me as much as they could. You know what I'm saying? So I was staying with my aunt at one point in my life. They just gave me up. I was just in foster care. And then the first group home I was in, the owner of it, he took me in, and that became my foster father. I don't know where my mind was at, but I was there for a while with my foster father, and then I ended up leaving. I'm on the streets, running the streets. Then I ended back up in like group homes and stuff, going through jail. I don't even know. I done been to every jail you can name, YSC, Oak Hill. I done been to all the places. And I would say like in 2014, that's when I really kind of like kicked all of it, like most of it to the curb. I was locked up. I was incarcerated for probably like a year and a half. I was fighting the case. And when I came home that time, I was just like, man, I'm like, man, I was tired of it. So I started working Nordstrom's warehouse. I started doing that. While I'm doing it, came home, started working a job, lost my best friend. He got killed, lost him to the streets. And I always remember that. So I was like, man, I can't keep doing this. Like, you know what I'm saying? And Alliance has helped me in so many ways that I don't even know how many people they helped. They gave me an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And I thank Ty for everything. I thank him all the time.
My brother shares a lot of the same experiences as the young men that we're currently working with. That being said, I'm living vicariously through his experiences, working with these young men by evidence of my brother coming through the DYRS system at such a young age. His journey is a lot like those youth starting at 14, 15 years old, being committed at an early age, shipped off out of state, away from the family. My brother eventually, after going through the DYRS system, ended up going to prison for 6 years. When I see these young men, I see my brother. But there were no credible messengers at that time. A lot of friends that we ended up losing to the streets. Some because of death, some because, they just lost their way. Souls got lost in the middle of the just life. Life caught up with them.
I am a returning citizen, a lifelong resident of the District of Columbia when I've not been a resident of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was released from the Bureau of Prisons in 2016 after serving 18 years in prison. President Obama commuted my sentence, and I was able to get home a little earlier than expected on my 25-year sentence for distribution or possession with intent to distribute controlled substances. So I have been affected by the lack of a father figure in my home, by some of the same factors that we see affecting, influencing the behavior of the young men and women who we work with at the Alliance of Concerned Men.
The Alliance is the greatest organization on earth. And I say that because they saved my life. And when I say save my life, time and time again, Mr. Parker would keep the door open for me to come back through. And the streets was calling my name. And they kept calling my name. And I don't know if it was the money or it was the attention, but something kept me in them streets. I'm a credible messenger. I do conflict resolution like 6 times a week. I stay.
And what I like about the Alliance also is how they parallel with what the young kids look up to. They show them, they change them first so the young kids can see an example like Larry and other guys that, you know what, you can be awesome out here too. You don't have to be in the streets. Streets call out kids from the time they're like 8 to 7 years old. And we're doing our best to make sure that doesn't continue to happen generation to generation.
When I was down, they picked me up and supported me all kinds of ways. They do help out with your kids and everything, and I just love them. Mr. Parker and everybody that I work with, I love everything that they done for me and mine. Because if it wasn't them, I wouldn't be no good. My kids hung with the wrong people, and I told them. But I was a single mom, and I had to work. The change that I seen in my son is more communication, because they was not giving communication to people. When I first got my grandson, it was a struggle because he's a drug child. And it's a struggle. And then his mama's still out in the street. So I took on the responsibility because he came through foster care. So I've been taking care of him for a minute. I used to talk to Tyrone. I used to talk to them all the time. It's never a dull day that I don't see them come in the neighborhood. And he used to come, him and the fellas used to come to the community center. And I would be in the community center every day and always run into them. And I talked to them about my grandson. And that's how I got my grandson in the program. I didn't know what to do, because I have 2 other kids that are special ed. And it wasn't as bad as this one. So it took a mighty long time, but the thing was getting him out of foster care and bringing him home. It's kind of hard to find somebody that you can trust. That's where it is, that word. That's the number one word is trust. A lot of kids don't trust their family members.
I have seen such a great change in a lot of youth life while working there, because once I was in prison and I violated the law and went there, and I learned a valuable lesson because I started thinking about my family and my kids and people that I left in the street, and I started wanting to change. So I got employed. I did things. I taught different classes and got the families together with their inmates wasn't getting visits and things of that nature. And I always been a family type person, so I could see that with the Alliance of Concerned Men, they taught me to be a family, taught me how to aid and assist people that needed help, that I wasn't the only one that needed help. A lot of times people think they are the only ones that are in trouble and in poverty and etc. and going through a lot of drama, but it's happening all over the world.
The Alliance of Concerned Men today is involved in the most major initiatives pertaining to the city, helping to make a transformation in regards to the escalation of violence that's occurring. We are now on the peak of reaching the days of 1991, when the district was considered the murder capital of the United States. The elevation of homicides is constantly occurring. We are the organization that have had boots on the ground for the last 30 years in some of the most dangerous and challenging communities in this city. We are known for our work. We are committed to our work. The Alliance of Concerned Men is the common denominator that must be kept in this particular equation to be able to create a safer, a better community as a whole in the city. We believe in public safety and public health, the greater good of our.
A lot of people don't know I'm a 3-tour Iraqi veteran. I'm a disabled veteran. I have a metal knee. I was in a task force, so I was combat veteran. So I'm very familiar with conflict. And it used to be my talent, from the streets all the way to the military. And then I got out the military back in 2012, living off of 23rd Street, Minnesota Avenue, and had my own conflicts in the neighborhood, as we always do. And I didn't know what violence interruption was. I was pro-violence. I didn't know what a credible messenger was. I wasn't even trying to be credible. I was trying to move under the radar. I was a lost citizen, to be totally transparent. And I had my own beefs. And I remember one time I was brought to Mr. Parker from Brother Tate. I was into music, so that was something that drew me to people. That's what had me connect to people. And so I joined messaging the music, went to the studio, and Mr. Tate was like, he was like, man, let me introduce you to a person that can help you. And I guess he could see that I had a lot of turmoil, amongst myself. And he brought me to Mr. Parker, and I started volunteering just because I felt love there. You know, I didn't feel love anywhere else at all. I didn't feel like my country loved me. I didn't feel like anybody loved me at the time. And I just got a different feeling when I was around Mr. Parker. And so in the midst of this beef, you know, I got jumped and in a grocery store right down the street, you know, right off of Minnesota. And I remember I had got stitches, and I was good at get back. Yeah, I was trained at get back, and I was definitely planning on that get back. And I would watch the person go home. I found out where they stayed at, you know, the whole nine, and I was walking it down because that's what I was good at. And then Mr. Parker allowed me to be outreach worker, like a violence interrupter volunteer. And I started seeing like there was no retaliation in that. Like that doesn't correspond. Like that doesn't even live in the same world. But what was crazy that I have more power by not retaliating in the community and amongst the person that attacked me when I had to get stitches. I still got scars on my lips today for it. But I have more power by not retaliating than I did if I retaliated. That's the kind of impact Mr. Parker's had on me in my life. The example of what right looks like, the opportunity to do right, and to have a moral compass.
So, this is not about reinventing the wheel. Mr. Tyrone Parker is the father of one of our very own, Monique Williams. I got those videos from her personally. And, you know, I didn't think about it. I should have invited him to come. But some other time, if we revisit this subject, because we may, I'll ask him if he will come on to come talk to us. But people are doing this, and we can do this. We can utilize, you know, the churches, the schools. You know, I think if we want to get, you know, do programs like the Alliance of Concerned Men, absolutely. These children on the streets are crying for help. They just need caring folks who can provide them that. I know that Sister Clementina will be so happy about this, these videos. I think she's the one who will be the most happy here that I shared that, because she's been on, you know, let's get the children, let's get the children. So, any other comments?
I'll follow through to see what the program is. I'd love to hear about it. If there's something of it here up in you know, in New York or in the surrounding states of New York, it would be interesting to be a part of. So.
Fantastic. I'll find out. I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'll get back to you. So Sister Tinu said, so sad, but lemon turns lemonade eventually. And thank you, Mr. Tyrone and your friends for stepping up. Handsome young men, thank you for redeeming their lives from jail and grave promptly. Right on the money, because some of them would have been dead. That's what we're talking about, gun violence. Dr. Maureen Booker, my sis, said, we are sad to see children die, but we must consider the mental illness of the children who lived through the massacre caused by the gun violence. Those children may not want to return to the school. Thank you for coming back to that. You're right. The children, it's not made. I don't think they will want to. Even the parents don't want them to return. But guess what? That's going to create another mental illness. Lack of socialization, you know, lack of exposure to those bugs that we need to be exposed to that makes us strong, that develops our immunity. I don't think we'll get the answers tonight. I think this is a process, and we started a dialogue. I think all of us need to start thinking about solutions to this. And as we come up with stuff, you know, rub it by each other. But I know that by the grace of God, our societies, our communities will be better because of who we are on this platform, and some people that are not on this platform, but of like mind, who love our communities, who love our people of color, and want the best for our communities. Thank you so much for coming again on a holiday.
Dr. O, you rock.
Thank you, Dr. O.
Everyone,
Thank you.
please keep,
Bye, Dr. O.
please
Thank
keep
you.
Dr. O in your prayers. She has had a lot of